We are back on Morning Line talking about egos during the break. Well, I mean, everyone's got an ego, right? Politicians have egos. Steve Gill has an ego. Nick Ferris has one. I don't know about the professor over here. He's a very humble man. Thank you guys for coming on this morning as we're talking politics. The number 737-7587. Let's get back to the phone calls. Usually Cindy and Paul spar. Cindy more Trump-esque, Paul more Hillary-esque, I believe, if it's that Paul. Paul, good morning.
Hey, good morning, my friend. How you doing?
Hey, Paul. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good morning to you, pal, man. Look, I'll just jump right into it. Look,
yeah, go ahead, Paul. Are you there, Paul?
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's kind of a bad connection. Go ahead and make a comment. We'll see how it goes.
Okay, brother. Mr. Gill said that the media was going to jump on the Republican candidate, whoever it was. Quite frankly, there you go. They blame it on the media. Blame it on the media. All the Republicans have now, Nick, and it's sad, is they have fear-mongering and blame it on the media. That's all they have, man.
Well, fear-mongering, blaming it on the media, and saying that if he loses the election is fixed. Come on, that makes me want to bang my head against the wall.
I'm not sure about the fixed part, but yeah. I don't think anybody would argue that the national mainstream media has shown the kind of treatment towards Republicans going back historically. At any time, and I think when you look at every poll, people acknowledge the media has a bias, and pointing it out is not fear-mongering, it's truth. Is it making excuses? Or is it a legit excuse for them if that's what they believe? Well, I think in a primary, it helps motivate your primary voters because, again, in a Republican primary, they know that the media is unfair and biased. I'm not sure it works as well in a general election, so I'd kind of move on from that and start focusing on the issues that will move votes, and I'm not sure that the media bias moves votes, and it does sound more like complaining rather than actually moving those independent voters, and maybe it mobilizes your base a little bit, but I don't think that's the best way to communicate your message when you've got limited time and limited sound bites. Let's go to Grady. Hi, Grady. Good morning.
Good morning, Nick.
Good morning, Grady.
And guess, I got to tell you now, we haven't seen a tax return from Donald J. Duck Trump, but we're hearing that he's got, $1 million or $1 billion worth of debt with the Bank of China. I trust this man like I would rattlesnake snarky. And the convention the Republicans put out was put her in jail, that's all you heard through that. But this man has taken money from poor people, and he's borrowed money from China, of course. So as the Republicans fight two wars, and that we didn't need to be in, I'll hang up and listen to y'all's comments.
I was wondering if someone was going to bring up the tax returns. We should touch on that. Give me your take, Steve, on the tax return thing and why you think, I assume, that it's no big deal that he's not releasing his returns. Or maybe you're going to surprise me and say, come on, dude, release them.
I think he should release his returns.
Okay,
I think the main reason that he's not is that we've heard a lot that Trump's net worth is based in large part on his assessment that his brand is worth X billion dollars, and that maybe he's not as wealthy as he presumes.
And I'm going to say,
if his brand is his value,
I guess if you think,
and his brand does have value.
I agree with you. I mean, if it comes out when he releases it, and I want to hear what you think, Professor, that it's released and he's not worth as much as he says he was. Big deal, all right? So he's worth, $100 million instead of $500 million, whatever. I mean, I don't know that really would matter that much to the voters. That's why, and if that's my thinking, then I'm thinking maybe there's something more in those returns than just that it's not living up to his actual net. I suspect it's got to be worse, because I don't really think the average voter is going to give a hoot if he's worth a little less than he was saying he was worth. Who cares? Honestly, who cares about that? Makes me think there might be something more in there.
Well, the other thing that I think could be much more damaging is the sort of thing that, of course, came with Romney a little bit, was the question, does he pay taxes? And, he said that he tries to minimize that, but it may be that he minimizes it so much that it's really embarrassing. Also, the question of charities. Does he give money to charity? He's claimed certainly that. There was an embarrassing thing in the primary where he claimed he was doing a donation, but was only forced to do it when the newspapers said donation hasn't been done. So those things are politically embarrassing. On the other hand, I do think I would agree with Mr. Gill that basically you could put this to bed, get it out of the way, and that would be the best way to handle it. But
I don't know. Do you think it'll come up more? I mean, is it going to be more? I mean,
I think the
unless he
Clintons are
releases
polling it to see, does that move voters? Again, at this stage of the game, what both teams should be doing, and I'm not sure how much the Trump team is doing it, but both teams should be doing what normal political analysts would tell you. What moves the most voters? You do have a limited amount of time, 70-something
maybe it
days,
doesn't matter.
only so many news cycles per day. What you talk about, you can only really hammer about 3 or 4 things effectively to get it into public consciousness. So there may be 100 issues you can talk about, and for Hillary Clinton, she may decide that the tax returns are number 27 and it doesn't make the top 10. If they think it'll move votes, they'll talk about it. If they think it won't, they won't.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think at this point, both of you, these candidates and their teams have some stuff in their back pocket that's going to be pulled out? I don't know, you always hear about the dirty trick committee on each side or whatever. Do you think there's stuff out there that's still going to come about?
I'm not sure that it falls in the dirty trick category, but I think when you've got
where they're
issues,
digging for dirt.
Well, that if they've got something, you're
That they're
going to start
holding on
seeing
to.
that in the next 4 weeks, because again, the attention span of the election, most voters start paying attention after Labor Day. Kids are going back to school right now. The kids are going off to college. There's a lot of things going on in people's real lives. And again, keep in mind, as we kind of talked right at the outset, it doesn't matter as much what people in Tennessee or people in California think. It really comes down to about 40 counties in 7 states. So while there may be a great issue
Explain that if you would again. You were talking about it. How it's down to just 40 counties in 7 states.
Well, you've got the electoral map, and you've got states like a Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama that are going to be firmly in the red column, or going to be in the Republican column. You've got states like New York and California and others that are firmly in the blue column, in the Democrat column. So when you start allocating from an electoral college standpoint, what's already in the bag for this guy and what's already in the bag for this guy, you come down to what are the battleground states, and they have tended to be the same consistent states, 7 to 9 states.
Are there any new
year
ones?
after year?
Any new ones? Battleground states?
What's interesting is, of course, Trump's not polling as well in a state like Georgia, which should not be a battleground state. North Carolina was not a battleground state until 2008, when it became one, really, when Obama took it, and then Romney took it back in 2012. So there are states that have kind of come into the process recently, not to the benefit of the Republicans, really. Now, this election, they seem to be able to, they've challenged a little bit more in Ohio and Iowa. But the net of this is, I agree with Mr. Gill, that basically there's just these 7 to 9 states that are really crucial in terms of the numbers of electoral votes: the Pennsylvania, Ohio, Florida, that sort of combination. Virginia seems to be slipping out, which is also to the detriment. I mean, Virginia seems to be slipping out of the battleground status, which is very troubling for Trump.
Okay, and then it gets down to these counties, too.
Then when you look within those states, in Florida, for example, you've got counties that tend to be swing counties that if they go this way or that way, it determines kind of where the state goes. I think Florida, 4 years ago, was about a 74,000 vote margin out of 4.5 million votes. So you swing in a couple of counties some pretty big blocks of vote, you can swing the state and then swing that electoral map. So in Florida, for example, Jacksonville, Tampa, Tallahassee are swing areas, whereas the Panhandle is more conservative, not much of a swing. Miami is less of a swing. It's pretty much in the Democrat part. So you look at what are the counties. Ohio, Cincinnati is a critical large population county and one that can swing. So again, it really comes down not just to those 7 to 9 states, it comes down to about 30 or 40 counties where you're going to see a bunch of resources.
That's amazing.
poured in.
And they're just going to be pouring into those areas, right?
We won't see a lot of TV commercials here, but if you're in Ohio and Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Florida, you're getting inundated already with TV
right
commercials.
now. And we were talking, does Donald Trump have, in your opinion, at this point, enough of an organization on the ground in a lot of these states? And we were talking during one of the breaks where, for him, that wasn't as big a focus. Maybe it's because he was an outsider coming in at the beginning, but that he doesn't have as much organization on the ground to get the vote out.
He doesn't have the ground resources, and they were for a while going to turn that over to the Republican National Committee. But then when you look at particular states like Ohio, you've got John Kasich, who lost to Trump, has not endorsed Trump, is not helping Trump. So the state Republican Party apparatus, controlled by the governor of Ohio, is not helping Donald Trump. He's going to have to cobble together his own ground troops in Ohio to counteract the fact that the state party isn't doing anything.
Yeah, in the end, election rules, namely the idea that you have to identify your voters and get them to the polls, still hold. Even for an election like this, it's less the case in primaries. Obviously, it proved that, or at least the Trump campaign did prove that that was less important in a primary campaign. But certainly in the general election, that rule seems still to hold.
And when you've got both candidates that are very unpopular, and you're getting down to where who turns out their base, who mobilizes their base, which again will make it a nastier campaign. You're going to see, as Republicans, having to cater to that conservative wing to turn that base out. On the Democratic side, they've got to turn out the African American base, which after Obama is not on the ballot, you saw huge historic numbers in the African American community in the last 2 election cycles. Those numbers drop in places like Charlotte, North Carolina, Philadelphia, various locations around the country. If those numbers go down, she's got to mobilize that African American vote without having the skills and the charisma that Barack Obama had. So she's going to have to play the race card very hard to get that done.
Do you think she benefits some from her husband in that regard?
Again, keep in mind that it's been about 20 years since he ran
But he was popular.
All the 50-year-olds that were running his campaign are now 70, so just like him. So again, your A team is now retired, so it's not as much impact.
And some of the voters,
he's an historical figure rather than a current politician now to some extent. It happens to all of us.
It does happen to all of us. Today, Tim Kaine's in town, right?
I didn't get invited.
Valentino's, right? Is what I'm hearing. It's just interesting, like you said. You're right about Tennessee, but you
but Tennessee matters for money.
Yes.
Talk about Tennessee.
They will come in.
They'll come in for money. Yeah,
that's
and
what it is.
Trump is in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
Does he need to be in Austin, Texas for money? I guess in part, but he's holding a rally in Austin, and that doesn't make sense given the electoral map.
But sometimes when you're wondering why are they going to these places, it's because there's an opportunity for money there.
Yeah, I expect we'll see Trump in Tennessee probably in September, raising money to spend in these other states and these other counties.
Gotcha. We'll take a break on that. Back with our final segment with our guests right after this.